Hello there guys and girls, welcome to another tutorial on my channel. I guess you know how magicians are never supposed to reveal their tricks? And then there was this guy.
His assistants do a little dance to get us in the mood. Good job. Not so amazing when you know the secrets.
Well, for today, this guy is me. I'm gonna show you a lot of machinima secrets nobody is sharing publicly. This video is gonna be rather advanced, so for the lessons I'm gonna show you in here, I'm assuming you have gathered a bit of knowledge already, either by watching my other tutorials or learning by doing. We're gonna use a lot of different tools and I will not go into the basics of how they work. Instead, I want to show you how to utilize them effectively to achieve creative effects and build unique scenes for your GTA machinima. Originally, I planned on making individual tutorials on how to use animations, how to spawn actors or how to build custom maps, but I think it's better if you see all the techniques within typical use cases and in the right context to each other. But this will also mean that this tutorial is gonna be quite huge. I'm gonna stuff this video with examples from my own machinima so you can see how I used my own knowledge for better or worse results. In order to give you an idea of what you're gonna learn, I structured this video into 4 sections. First of all, I'm gonna show you all the tools you're gonna need in order to make this work. The next step is the scripting, because it will be the basis for all your scenes. Part 3 will be about how to actually set up and film scenes as if you were on the set of an actual movie. The last part will be another quick look into how you need to place and move the cameras in order to achieve a good film look. You can skip any section by using the time codes in the description. And I'm just gonna say this once in this video in order to save time. You will find the links to all tools, websites and other tutorials in the video description. If you have Alzheimer's, you shouldn't be watching this tutorial anyway. Let's dive into this massive pile of fun. Tools of the trade. First of all, I need you to realize that there isn't a single mod or tool that will allow you to do everything at once. You will need a bunch of separate things which I'm gonna go through right now. They are all meant to peacefully coexist and to complement each other during the production of your machinima. You will need Open4 to install mods easily. It also contains a really helpful feature called Open Camera. This used to be an individual mod, but now it's a part of Open4. It removes the boundaries for the camera and Rockstar editor so you can move freely all across the map instead of being limited to a short range. For more info on Open4 and Open Camera, please watch the tutorials I already made about these tools. The mod Extended Video Export, or EVE in short, allows you to use better export settings for your videos because the quality of the regular Rockstar editor isn't that good. I already created a tutorial about this mod a while back. Go there now if you haven't seen it. The mod Skin Control is really useful if you want to create, save and load custom characters for your videos. That way you won't have to recreate your characters again if you have to record your videos in multiple sessions. I also have a tutorial for that. The tool isn't essential and can be replaced by others, but I like using it. Scene Director is a very helpful tool because it was created solely for the purpose of making machinima. Admittedly, I haven't had the chance to dive very deeply into it because it does have a lot of cool and complex features. However, I use it on a daily basis because it lets you switch between actors quickly and record their actions so you can control multiple people by yourself. You'll see in a couple of minutes. Menyoo PC is probably the most important tool of them all. If you're not using this trainer, you're doing it wrong. I had to learn this too. Ever since I discovered the possibilities this tool has, I was able to turn a lot more of my ideas into videos with GTA 5. There's a ton of options and within this tutorial we will only have so much time to talk about some of them. The Simple Trainer by Syark is a tool that I'm used to since my early GTA 4 days. It is not the best trainer out there, but it has some cool and nice options that will make your life somewhat easier and which are not available in Menyoo or other trainers as far as I know. In particular, I am talking about the bodyguard and pet spawning features. Another nice feature of Simple Trainer are the voice options, which I will talk about shortly. The green screen mod isn't as essential as the other tools I've mentioned. However, it can and will open so many more options for your videos if you know how to utilize it. And it's not as hard as you think. That's what she said. Please go to the tutorial I have created if you're curious how this mod works best. With the Timescaler mod, you can modify the time settings of your game. Admittedly, Menyoo and Simple Trainer can do that too, but what I found to be really helpful with this mod is that you can create time lapses real easily with it. Just set it to time 60 or 120 and the day and night cycle will be very rapid. This allows for some cool shots. However, I'm not going to talk about this tool later on in this video. Another helpful mod is the animation viewer. A lot of my fellow creators are using it and love the mod for its flexibility because you can apply animations to the upper body while still walking around normally and stuff like that. Also, it plays many cutscene animations. However, I haven't had the time to practice with it enough to give you solid advice, so I'm just gonna pass on the recommendation for you to discover NM Viewer for yourself. For now, I think we're good to go with a huge amount of tools I've shown you just now. The last mod you're gonna need is whatever you can find on GTA5mods.com, and that will help you achieve your machinima vision. Dig deep into their collection and you will find not only car or player models, but also amazingly creative scripts for certain tasks, even if it's just an actual working indicator for your car, which will make your movie that tiny bit more realistic. Sometimes it's details like that that turn a good machinima into a great machinima. On the hardware side of things, you will definitely need a full-size keyboard, including a numpad, otherwise you will never be able to control all of these mods. Most of them have control schemes that rely on the numpad, so if you're working on a small laptop, you might be out of luck. Let's get into the scripting now, shall we? Scripting. This is a thing many people ignore altogether, but especially for beginners it's very essential to write down what's supposed to happen and what is being said by whom during a scene. The script is gonna be a golden thread you will follow while filming. It will help you know how much dialogue there will be so you don't film too little or too much. But how do you write a script? It really depends on how you like to work. I, for one, have practiced a lot of this writing. This is why for many videos I don't even write a full script at all. I already have the final video in my head like a vision. I know which steps I'm gonna have to do in order to film all this. Very often all I do is write down some bullet points, start filming and let the rest happen on the fly, which is important for comedy because the spontaneity really helps keeping things fresh. For starters, you should try and do a well-formatted script. There is a very nice guide on WikiHow that will teach you how to write and format your scripts. Last time I did this was for my video Halloweenception, which you can see here. Let me read this out loud while showing you the according scenes.
She lays on the bed and her mobile rings and vibrates across the table. It shows unknown number. The ringtone is a famous horror movie theme. She picks up but hears only heavy breathing.
Hello.
Hi, sweetheart. You should really clean up your bed from time to time.
Annie is shocked.
Who are you? Get away from me.
But I want to get to know you first.
She proceeds to walk into the bathroom. The floorboard squeaks suspiciously. Suddenly a vase topples over and Annie turns around in shock. It was only the cat. What a relief. At the same moment a ghost silently glides around the apartment behind her, disappearing into a wall. She goes into the bathroom to wash her face. The ghost appears inside the mirror for a short time, but Annie doesn't notice.
As you saw, the script is not 100% accurate anymore. I allowed myself the freedom to change a couple of things whenever I felt I could improve stuff in the actual video. Also, this script was a rather loose description of what's happening. You could go into way more detail. If you want to do the real deal, you could also draw an actual storyboard shot by shot. There's another cool guide on WikiHow for you to discover. A storyboard is a good thing to make, especially if you plan on doing visual storytelling without any dialogue at all. A true master of this is Jacob88. I recommend you to watch his masterpieces Rover and Black Ocean to learn more about how to tell a story without a single word. Personally, I never made a storyboard for any of my machinima because, as I said, I already have most of the shots in my mind, and as opposed to real movies, you can always go back in the game and reshoot a scene or add new material. In real life, this would be a very expensive thing to do. In GTA, it's just, well, mildly annoying. With these things in mind, we're now gonna move on to the main section of this tutorial. I'll show you how to set up scenes with practical examples.
Setting up scenes.
Example 1. Next up, I'm going to show you how to create scenes in the GTA environment. I need you to realize that there is no perfectly right way to do this. Every creator does this differently, so I'm going to share my personal experiences and some best practices I found out about. I'm going to take you from A to C so you can see the full process step by step. Much of the footage you see in the background is going to be sped up because you wouldn't really want to watch this stuff happening in real time. Creating scenes is less about following a strict plan, but more about finding ways to make your ideas come true with the available tools. You will need to find your own workaround, so it is essential to understand how these tools work. Also, you must realize that creating a film is all about illusions. Nothing you see on screen actually happened like you see it on screen. I'm gonna do my best to give you insights on this now. We're gonna start with an easy example. Two characters walking down the street having a little chat. Right now I've got Franklin here, but I want to use a custom character which I specifically prepared for the scene. So I'll open up skin control and spawn this guy. Now I gotta find a nice location to shoot. I like to use the air brake option within Simple Trainer for that. You'll find it in a general options menu over here. This allows you to just fly quickly around the map. Alternatively, you could boot up Menyoo and hit F9 for the spooner mode. Left click your character and hold to pick it up and then fly around the map. Now I have found a nice location and I want to set up nice mood by changing the time of day and weather settings. Open Menyoo and go to the time menu and adjust it according to your script. I want the scene to be set in the afternoon, so I'm gonna lock the time. This means I'll have endless time to shoot my scene. The mood should be kinda grim, so I'll switch to the weather tab in Simple Trainer and select something like smog or cloudy. Don't forget to force this type of weather, which will ensure that it won't start raining in the middle of your shoot. If you want that to happen, you can still make it rain later on. Another thing I like to do is to deactivate the wind, because I just don't like these weird dirty particles flying around all the time. You can leave this active if it suits your movie. Okay, cool, but I wanted two characters. So I'm gonna open up Scene Director, set my first character as Actor 1 and then clone the actor. This will allow me to switch between the two very quickly. I recommend giving each actor a name because it can get quite confusing if you have multiple characters. I want one of the characters to carry a trash bag in his hand. If you go to Menyoo's player options, you will find different movement styles that you can apply to each character. There is even one specifically for holding a bag, so I'm gonna use that. Now I need a bag. So I'll go into the spooner mode of Menyoo by pressing F9 again. I could now either fly around to find a trash bag somewhere, but it's easier to just search for the right object. So I'll hit up spawn entity into world and search for the phrase bag. I can now see little previews of each object as I scroll through this list. If I hit 5 on the numpad, the object is spawned. Most of the time I spawn many objects to see them at full opacity and then delete the unused ones by aiming at them and hitting the delete key. Now that I've found the right dirt bag, I'm gonna aim and right click it, which opens the property menu. You can now position each object by changing X, Y, Z, roll, pitch and yaw. This also works if you attach an object to something, for example to self. You can now see that the bag is stuck to the current character. You can now even select which body part the bag should be attached to. In our case it's obviously the right hand. You can see how it's moving already. Within the attachment options you can now move the object again, which is a little wonky sometimes because all the axes are kinda shifted now. When placing attached objects, I recommend to set very low increments for your movement to get more precision. Pro tip: it's always wise to deactivate the collision for attached objects, because otherwise you might get nasty bugs in your game. Something like this. What the fuck is happening with this bitch? Having attached the bag to my character, I can now move around freely like that. You can do the same with any object in the game and attach it to any other object in your Menyoo database. For example, you could attach a couch to a car that was made invisible with Simple Trainer and then attach two pads to the couch. By using an invisible character, you can then make it look as if the couch was driving around town. You can also attach a cigarette to a character's lips and then go into the property menu of the cigarette and apply a so-called trigger effect. If you loop the meth pipe smoke on the cigarette, it will constantly emit smoke. Feel free to discover the variety of trigger effects yourself. It's a lot of fun. Back to our two characters. As I said, I want to make them walk down the street. The one with the bag should have a disgusted expression, so I'm gonna go into Menyoo and give him another mood. I think aiming works quite well here. Next up, I'm gonna open up Scene Director again and go into record mode. That way I can walk my character anywhere, even around static objects in the game. If at the same time I push J on my keyboard, I can make the mouth move for dialogue. Timing this stuff is easier with a finished script because you can talk while recording to know how long to push this hotkey. When recording is done, you press Alt-R or Alt-E on your keyboard. You can repeat that with a lot of actors. However, I want to be in control of the second character for demonstration purposes, so I'll switch to that one. I'm gonna activate the action replay right now by pressing F2 first. Then I open up Simple Trainer again because in model spawning there are some cool voice options I want to show you.
Excuse me.
I can now apply many different voices to my characters, female and male.
No way.
They're even connected to certain gestures, so it looks pretty natural during dialogues. You can later remove the dialogue audio in Rockstar Editor, or remove all the audio if you plan on replacing it with custom sounds anyway. Next up, I can go into Scene Director, set the scene from setup into active mode, and you'll see that the other guy starts walking and chatting all by himself now. I can walk by his side and trigger certain voice events in Simple Trainer. All I gotta do is to time it right so it actually looks like a dialogue and not two people just blabbering randomly.
Excuse me.
Stuff like this might take a couple of takes to get right, so I'm just gonna go back to Start in Scene Director and do the shot again. Thanks to the action replay, I can only capture the scene which actually went well. Before we move on, let me show you how this shot will look after all the editing.
These fucking Chinese. We've got to hit them hard next time.
Let us get rid of the back first.
What's in there anyway? Body parts or something?
I wouldn't carry those around the street.
Why not? I like to hide in plain sight. The cops would never expect that.
Example 2. In our next scene, we will look at car chases once again. There are different ways of creating those. You can either use the waypoint option in Scene Director by clicking into the map and then applying the waypoint to all the actors sitting in cars. That way they will just drive the path that is shown on the GPS. I recommend you to use one of the aggressive driving styles because they look better for action. The careful style is really great for stealthy or everyday scenes. You can then drive the car that is being chased or the car that follows stealthily. That's up to you. This stuff works with multiple cars as well. The second way to make car chases is to use Simple Trainer. It allows you to spawn aggressive drivers that even shoot at you and try to ram you off the road. You can also deactivate the drive-by weapon if you like to have no firefight, which is useful for illegal underground races or the likes. The advantage these methods have over the recording mode in Scene Director is that they also work with a dynamic environment, meaning that drivers will react to traffic, whereas with a recorded path, the cars are undoubtedly gonna crash, which will look ridiculous for sure. With Simple Trainer you can once again use voice events even when you're sitting in a car and driving around. The best thing is that even the hand gestures are automatically suited to this, so you can have your character point at stuff while driving. The third way to do car chase scenes is with Menyoo. To make this work, you need to have both characters in your database. Then you choose the entry task sequence for the character that should follow. You can now select cruise if you just want your character to drive around the town normally. Drive and follow entity is good for car chases. Hit this entry again for more options like the maximum speed, which should be much higher in this scenario, and the driving style, which should be avoid traffic a lot. Also in here you can choose the entity to follow. You can either pick the car or the other character. The last step is to make both characters get into their vehicles and then set the status of the task sequence to active. And then you can drive around town like this forever. Example 3. Let's say you are at the start of the machinima and you haven't found the right location anywhere on the vanilla map. In this case you can always go to GTA 5 mods and see if you find custom maps other players have created, either with add-on props or simply by assembling movie sets with vanilla props. But you could always build your own custom maps with Menyoo. A real master of this trade is Sadrium. He even built an entire cafe interior once. Check out his video The Jam Episode 0 and Dog Room. Also, Yansu builds very cool maps for his funny testing videos. I will make a separate tutorial on how to build creative machinima locations soon, because going into any further detail here would be too much. So right now I just want to give you some key information on how to build maps with Menyoo. First of all, you should always press F9 for the spooner mode, like I've shown you before. This makes it much easier to navigate around the set and get previews of the objects you want to spawn. You can now search for objects quickly and spawn them in. This is how you create a romantic beach dinner scene like this. Search for table, chair, plates and a lot of other stuff. Depending on what you're planning to do, you can set each object to be either frozen in place, which means they can't be moved by any force like characters or explosions. Or you set them to dynamic, which means they can be moved around and destroyed, which is helpful for breaking windows or bottles. You don't need to build entire rooms though. Sometimes it's just enough to fill an existing room with life, like I tried to do in my Halloweenception video. I placed a notebook, panties, magazines and all kinds of stuff in there to make it look more realistic and also tell a story about this character. Just from the images you learn that she's probably a bit messy, but also hardworking and social, since there's stacks of paper on her bed and a notebook with Life Invader on the screen. If you want to use existing props on a location for your video, it's best to add these objects to the database if you're gonna change their position. This way you won't see a duplicate of the object at the original position in Rockstar Editor later on. Animations. Of course now you wanna have some people sitting at the dinner table, right? Well, you can do that very easily. Just go to the player options and animations. You'll already find a selection of funny animations, but most of the time you will use the full list or search feature. So let's skip to the bottom of this list. In the settings you can now determine if your animation should repeat infinitely or play once or other stuff. I like to have them repeat forever, even though sometimes there's a lot of movement and your character will get carried away. In the list of all animations you can now search, for example, chair, which will give you a lot of different sitting animations. The names of the subcontainers already give you a clue of what to expect. In our example, we want a male character to sit on a regular chair. You can now enter one of these containers and check the animations. Often you will find the appendix idle, which are usually perfect loops with no ugly transition. Also there are enter and exit, which do just what they say they do. I recommend to save the animation you found for your current project as a favorite. You are probably gonna have to reapply it multiple times throughout a shoot. Also, you must not be the character that you are trying to place, because this can get buggy. Once your character is animated, you can go to spooner mode and use it to position him or her correctly. Most of the time you're gonna have to deactivate the collision of the character or the chair, because otherwise it will do this weird skipping up and down and it will never look right. After placing the character you can use Scene Director to switch back to him. This means you're gonna have to reapply the animation again. But since it's in the favorite list, that's no problem. Now you open Simple Trainer and this will allow you to trigger speech events once again. You can use this knowledge now to place any kind of character on any kind of furniture.
I don't want any trouble, sorry.
If you have a deck chair, search for deck chair in the animations. It's that simple. However, this is probably the part that requires the most patience during machinima production. At least it is to me, but it can also lead to magical moments that will make your videos unique.
Come, you must. The force, you can feel it.
Synchronized animations. Scene Director has these amazing synchronized animations that will let you use multiple actors simultaneously. Just go to the tab and preview the animations. You will always see how many actors are involved in the scene. Mostly it's 2 or 3. Now you gotta check which character plays which role. So if you want the guy to be able to stab the girl, the guy will have to be actor 1 and the girl is actor 2. You can reverse the roles by removing the actors from the list and re-entering them in the correct order. You can put these animations onto a keyboard shortcut. As you can see, with some animations the characters jump to a seemingly random position in relation to actor 1. In open spaces this is usually not a problem because you can just place everything else where it needs to be. Indoors, however, it can be tricky to place, but here's how you do it. Save the desired synced animation to a keyboard shortcut. Then go into record mode for your actor 1. Hit the keyboard shortcut for the synced animation and let it play all the way till the end. Now end the record mode with Alt-E or Alt-R. Now test if it worked by setting the scene to active again. If yes, then go to the Edit Scene menu. You can now change the topmost entry to Anim for Actor 1 and you'll see how the starting point of the animation changes compared to where you stood before. Then you can hit Edit Position and move the characters around so they fit with your surroundings. Hit Edit Position again so the circle is blue and the position is locked. It takes some time to get used to the controls, but it's definitely better than moving the character around by walking. Admittedly, many creators use these animations because it's an easy and quick way for action that doesn't look too bland. So you're gonna see those often in other machinima as well. It's up to you if you want to use them. Lighting. Also, let's talk about lighting. If you have night scenes, you can and should use custom lights to improve the look of your shots. There are a number of ways to do this. The quickest way is to spawn cars and have one of the main characters sit in there. This is important because if you use any other character as the driver, the lights won't be dynamic. Then you just position the cars and turn the high beams on or off. The second way to do this is by using the spooner mode again. Just search the object list for light or lamp and you'll find a ton of cool lighting options. For instance, I lit up an entirely custom made studio in my video The Truth About Chemtrails, which was very GPU intense. Feel free to discover the different light models yourself. Please note that none of these customly spawned lights will transfer into Rockstar Editor if you're shooting inside buildings. Also, none of these lights works during daytime. Keep this in mind or else you'll face a bad surprise. The third option is very cool too. In Scene Director you can give an actor a stage light. It's important that you don't use the spotlight option but instead go to Edit Scene mode and add a light in there. You can then give each light individual movement, rotation, flickering, make it follow your character and give it a certain color. The only thing that's kinda confusing as of now is that once you've spawned a light, you can't change the angle of light by moving the camera around. You can only go left and right, forward and backward with it. So make sure to adjust the angle of the spot first and then spawn it. As opposed to the spotlights in Menyoo and Scene Director, these stage lights will transfer into Rockstar Editor. The last tip for lighting I want to give you is to first do a test shot of the light in Rockstar Editor, because from what I've experienced, it turns out a lot brighter than it is in game, especially when you're rendering with Eve. More recording time. Another useful option in Simple Trainer is to deactivate pedestrians and cars altogether. This not only removes a lot of random factors that could ruin your shots and potentially hours of work, but also it opens up more performance for your recordings. For instance, if I have all pads and cars active, I can record around 40 to 60 seconds with action replay. If they're out of the equation, I can easily record up to 3 minutes worth of footage. But then again, there are a lot of scenarios where you need the ambience of an actual city in the background. Camera efficiency. You have now successfully captured your scene. The next step is to find the right angles to tell a story. I have talked about this a lot of times before, for example in my first big Rockstar Editor tutorial and in the advanced camera tutorial. Go and watch them now if you haven't. You'll learn a lot of basic and extended stuff there. In here I want to talk less about what specific settings you should use, but more about how to utilize the camera to use what you have recorded for the fullest. What I mean by that is that you shouldn't necessarily place one clip only once in the timeline, because you can try different perspectives with the same clip. During dialogues you don't have to show the talking person's face all the time. Let me show you an example of how this would look like.
Now tell me, how could you fuck up this simple errand?
I don't know, boss. They had me cornered.
Did you have a gun?
I guess my instinct kicked in and told me to run.
The lost never run away.
In a serious context, this is a really boring style, but it can also be useful for comedic effect if you do the timing right.
Hey, do you want some?
Nope.
Let me finish my...
Shut up.
More ice cream for me then?
You didn't mention ice cream before.
Well, now I got it all to myself.
I don't need your cheap ice cream anyway. Cool. I already ate it, idiot.
This very linear montage also limits your freedom of inserting the voice acting at a good pace. This is why in actual movies it is common practice to show the character that talks from behind, which allows you to put dialogue over footage where there was no actual talking. Also, you can show the other characters' reactions to what is being said at the same time. Let me show you the same scene improved with this knowledge.
What happened? How could you fuck up such an easy errand? All you had to do was drop off a fucking package.
I'm sorry, boss. They had me cornered and I...
So what? Did you bring your fucking gun?
Mm-hmm.
Then you could have just killed a bunch of those motherfuckers. They've been hurting the business for months now.
I guess my instinct kicked in and told me to run.
Let me tell you one thing. The lost never run.
How do you do that in Rockstar Editor? Well, there's no real magic to it. If you have recorded 2 separate clips, one for each speaking character, you could use both clips twice. In the first instance, you film the speaking character from the front, and the second instance from behind. This will leave you with 4 clips total, and you can easily assemble these into a real dialogue. But you can also shoot actual separate reaction shots, where the facial expression of the listener changes. I know that this process creates a lot more footage to render, which means longer export times as well as bigger project sizes. But using this as a starting point of practice, you will get a good intuition for how much footage you'll eventually need for your dialogues, especially when working with a detailed script. The next important thing for filming a scene is to have enough variations in the angles, because once again this will give you more freedom during editing, especially for fast-paced montage styles. Plus you will be able to hide the fact that your scenes are not one continuous shot. Let me show you an example. In this shot we once again have a car chase. Instead of just showing angles alternating from the first car and the second car, you can also show close-ups of the cars like a spinning wheel, the dashboard or the driver's face. Alternatively, you can use long shots to show the cars racing through the city. How about a nice top-down view that simulates a police helicopter? Or maybe you show the cars speeding by a character that doesn't participate in the chase. The viewer doesn't usually notice the location changes between shots unless they are very abrupt. Say in one moment we're downtown and suddenly we're out in the country. And this is a lucky situation for machinima, because it's kinda hard to create a real continuity because the traffic and pedestrians walking the street are random. If you edit cleverly, nobody will notice. Even if you don't edit cleverly, people won't notice. Two more important things about car chases. A. Keep your camera moving at all times. If you have a sudden stop of a dolly right in there, it will kinda break the flow of the chase. B. When making a cut, don't jump the 180-degree axis between the 2 cars. You can cross this line if you do a continuous pan, because the viewer won't lose orientation during that. But remember, if you cut again after switching the side, you must stay on the same side again. It's important so your audience will always know which direction the cars are going. You can try to watch your footage muted to focus better on if the images make sense standing alone. The last important thing I want to talk about in terms of camera work is to use the camera wisely so the viewer is able to understand the constellations of the characters. I've talked about this in my first Rockstar Editor tutorial. There is this thing called an establishing shot or long shot that is usually seen whenever there's a change in scenes. This helps your audience to get a quick overview of where we are and who is gonna be in the picture. After you've made clear where your characters are, you can start getting in closer with the camera, if there's any dialogue or if you want to show what they're doing. In this example, I have now established this group of people. If I want to introduce a new character, I will once again try to show where he is. In this case, I'll look over the shoulder of a policeman observing the group. Then I can show a close-up of the officer to visually tell the audience, this guy is up to something, but we don't really know it yet. And that's also how you build up tension in your scene. A rule of thumb in Hollywood is show, don't tell. Because after all, it's a movie and not a book reading. So the more story you can convey with images, the less cringy dialogue you will need.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Oh, my eyes! My eyes! Ah!
And that's about it for this tutorial. There are many more advanced techniques which I'm gonna have to learn myself, but the video was quite massive and contained a ton of useful stuff as it is. If you feel that I've missed something or if you have any questions, just hit me up in the comments and I'll try to help you out. The script for this, by the way, was 12 pages long. This took a long time to put together, so in case you enjoyed my tutorial, please consider becoming a patron or supporting me by sharing my content on social media. Thank you for watching. whanowa, over.